In a time before time, when myths were reality and shadows roamed the earth, there was an eternal feud. In the hushed whispers of the ancient world, tales were spun of supernatural beings that walked among us. Beings that were not merely figments of imagination, but as real as the very air we breathe. This was a world where the line between man and beast was blurred, a world where werewolves and vampires were not just bedtime stories to scare children, but a terrifying reality. In the darkest corners of this world, a feud simmered, a feud as old as the moon itself. It was a battle between two age-old adversaries, the werewolves and the vampires, a war that raged on for centuries, unseen by human eyes, a war fought not for glory or honor, but for something far more primal, territory and power. The werewolves, creatures of strength and agility, ruled the forests, their howls echoing in the stillness of the night. They were the guardians of the land, their power drawn from the very earth beneath their paws. On the other hand, the vampires, beings of cunning and speed, held sway over the cities, their silent whispers haunting the empty streets. They were the masters of the night, their strength fueled by the lifeblood of their victims. And so these two formidable forces clashed, each striving for dominance over the other, their hatred for each other as fierce as the battles they fought. But amidst this relentless strife, there was a prophecy that spoke of a future event, an event that could bring an end to their eternal war. It spoke of a night of blood and moon, a night when the boundaries between the werewolves and vampires would blur, a night that could either unite them or destroy them all. But only time would tell whether this prophecy would be their salvation or their undoing. The prophecy foretold a night of blood and moon, a night that would either end the feud or doom them all. As centuries passed, the prophecy became a forgotten tale, lost in the annals of time. A tale of blood and shadow, of werewolves and vampires, lived only in whispers and hushed lullabies. The two ancient species, bound by a shared history and a bitter feud, managed to coexist, their animosity simmering beneath the surface like a dormant volcano waiting for the right moment to erupt. The days turned into weeks, the weeks into months, and the months into years. And so, the wheel of time spun on, indifferent to the tension that lay between the two races. They lived their lives, separate yet intertwined, their paths crossing only on the rarest of occasions, under the most unusual circumstances. Then, something extraordinary happened. A rare celestial event was on the horizon, a lunar eclipse coinciding with a blood moon. This event, which only happened once every few centuries, was seen as a harbinger of change, a signal that the time for the prophecy to come true was nearing. The prophecy, as it was told, spoke of a time when the werewolves and vampires would be forced to confront their shared past, their mutual animosity, and the wounds that had never fully healed. The blood moon was a symbol of this confrontation, a beacon in the sky that signaled the beginning of a new era. As the fateful night drew closer, the air was thick with anticipation and dread. The werewolves and vampires, despite their best efforts to ignore the prophecy, found themselves drawn to it like moths to a flame. The blood moon was not just a celestial event, it was a symbol of their shared destiny, a reminder of the prophecy that had been forgotten but was now impossible to ignore. The night of the blood moon was upon them, and with it, the prophecy was set in motion. The stage was set for an epic confrontation, a clash of titans that would decide the fate of both species. The blood moon was not just a harbinger of change, it was the catalyst for a battle that had been brewing for centuries. The night of the blood moon was upon them, and with it the prophecy was set in motion. The night sky turned blood red, the moon concealed by the earth's shadow, a sight that struck fear in the bravest hearts. A shiver of unease crept through the night, whispered on the wind, echoed in the rustle of leaves. It was a night that dripped with the promise of the extraordinary. The werewolves, with their savage strength and primal instincts, felt a peculiar tug, a pull that seemed to reverberate in their bones. They were drawn towards it, curiosity and a strange compulsion leading them on. They prowled through the darkness, their senses heightened, alert to the mysterious call that stirred within them. Simultaneously, the vampires, those ancient beings of the night, felt a similar call. Their hearts, though devoid of a mortal's beat, throbbed with an eerie anticipation. They moved like shadows, swift and silent, drawn towards the same location as the werewolves. Their age-old hatred for their lupine counterparts momentarily set aside, their focus singular on the strange force that beckoned them. And so, they arrived. Werewolf and vampire, ancient enemies, now standing on the same ground, their eyes reflecting the blood-red hue of the sky. They saw each other, their differences glaringly obvious, yet a strange understanding passed between them. Something greater than their feud was at play, something that demanded their attention and respect. The tension in the air was palpable, a tangible force that held them in its grip. The moon, shrouded by the earth, seemed to hold its breath, the world waiting in a hushed anticipation. The werewolves and vampires, each aware of the other's presence, waited too, their instincts screaming that something monumental was about to occur. And then it happened. As the eclipse reached its peak, an otherworldly force descended upon them, binding werewolf and vampire alike. They stood transfixed, their eyes wide in shock and awe, as they realized that their lives, their very existence, was about to change forever. The night of blood and moon had only just begun. The force, an entity older than time itself, spoke of the prophecy, the night of blood and moon and the fate of their species. Its voice, though ethereal and otherworldly, resonated with an ancient wisdom that commanded respect from even the most defiant of creatures. The prophecy, it explained, was not just a myth spun by their ancestors. It was a stark warning, a dire prediction of the future that was now knocking at their door. This was a threat that neither the werewolves nor the vampires could face alone. The force revealed the existence of a formidable enemy, a malignant entity that harbored an insatiable desire to obliterate both species from the face of the earth. This ancient enemy was a creature of shadow and malice, a being so powerful that it had been locked away in the deepest abyss of the world, but now it was stirring, awakened by the scent of their discord. The prophecy, the force revealed, held the key to their survival. The werewolves and vampires, the moon and the night, needed to unite their powers to stand together against this looming threat. The revelation sent chills down the spines of both species. Their age-old hatred for each other seemed trivial in the face of such a menace. Fear gnawed at their hearts, but this fear was not just for their own lives, it was for the continuation of their species, for the world they knew, for the legacy they would leave behind. In that moment, the werewolves and vampires, creatures of instinct and survival, made a choice born out of desperation and the instinct to survive. They agreed to a temporary alliance to set aside their differences and stand together against their common enemy. This pact was sealed not with a handshake, but with a ritual older than any of them. A ritual performed under the watchful eyes of the moon, with their blood mingling on the sacred ground. With a pact sealed in blood and moonlight, they prepared for the battle of their lives. The ancient enemy, a force of pure darkness, descended upon them, its power dwarfing theirs. The night sky was set ablaze, casting long, monstrous shadows as the united front of werewolves and vampires faced their common adversary. The battlefield was a chaotic symphony of roars, snarls, and the clash of supernatural might. Yet even with their combined strength, the enemy seemed invincible. The werewolves, with their moon-enhanced power, lunged with ferocity, their claws tearing into the darkness. The vampires, their crimson eyes glowing, struck with speed that blurred the mortal eye, their fangs sinking deep into the enemy. But the darkness only laughed, its chilling laughter echoing off the ancient stones, mocking their futile efforts. The battle raged on, each moment a testament to their will to survive, a dance between life and death. Yet every strike, every wound inflicted seemed to only fuel the enemy's power. In the heat of the battle, a sudden realization struck them. Perhaps the prophecy had a deeper meaning. In the prophecy's cryptic words, they found a glimmer of hope, a last chance to save their species. The united force of werewolves and vampires, ancient adversaries now allies, finally deciphered the prophecy's true meaning. It wasn't about superiority, dominance, or the survival of the fittest. It was about unity, coexistence, and the strength found in diversity. Their survival wasn't contingent on their individual might, but on their collective will to live harmoniously, to let go of centuries of hatred and vendetta. They realized that the prophecy foretold not a battle to the death, but a fight for life, a fight for a shared future. This revelation, this newfound understanding, ignited a spark within them. It fueled their resolve, their determination, their courage. They were no longer separate species, but a single force, ready to face their common enemy. With a mighty roar, they unleashed their combined power, the outcome of the battle hanging in the balance.